Sure, Illinois got Andrei Stojakovic instead of us, but that means they're now probably out on Italian wing Dame Sarr. Carolina could slide right on in.
This is Tyler Hansbrough, and you're listening to Locked On Tar Heels.
You are Locked On Tar Heels, your daily podcast on the UNC Tar Heels. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, what's up? It's Thursday, May 1st, 2025. Welcome into the Locked On Tar Heels podcast, the only daily North Carolina show out there. I'm your host, Isaac Schade, and you're joining us at the place to get your Tar Heels content every single day. It's all part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Thanks so much for making this your first listen or watch to get your Thursday going the right way. Special shout out to all the everydayers with us, all the members of the Locked On Tar Heels Discord, and of course, our great insiders as well. On the show today, we got our good buddy, Coach Bill Robinson, the head coach of the Milligan University Buffaloes, working on finishing off his own roster right now and just trying to get all the pieces put together. It's not just the D1 level, man. Everybody's going through it. And so, Coach, thoughts and prayers as you finish this thing off. Coach is also, by the way, a 2-decade veteran of Carolina Basketball School, Carolina's summer basketball camp, which is not too terribly far away, and we're excited for Coach to be there yet again this summer. This episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's a great deal. On the show today, we continue to look at, okay, if Drake Powell doesn't come out of the draft and come back to Carolina, who on earth could we get to fill that hole? We've got some international conversation today. We're going to look at Dame Sarr. We also want to have a conversation about some potential ACC schedule reduction from 20 down to 8 teams as soon as this season. So we'll talk about that. And then, interestingly enough, we had a little Carolina Milligan connection kind of pop up over this past week, and Coach Rob was involved in those conversations. So we'll go a little bit behind the scenes on that as well. A fun conversation to wrap the show today. But Coach, let's start here with Dame Sarr. And this is interesting because he is a wing that plays for Barcelona. Illinois has been after him, as has Duke. But Illinois lands Andrei Stojakovic. Duke gets Cedric Coward. And so I think both of those teams are probably out. And so, Coach, might this be an opportunity for the Tar Heels to say, out of the way, boys, we're sliding in?
No, I think it's a great opportunity. The guy can shoot the eyes out of it. And he's big, another big wing, and I think that was obviously a big part of the emphasis this year is to get big guys, big wings, and he fits that perfectly. He shoots it well. He can get up and down the floor, finishes in transition. Stuff that I like to see him come off ball screens and how comfortable he seemed coming off ball screens to be able not just make plays, but to shoot that. I mean, he can get his feet set. His feet are really good and make shots behind those screens. So I really like him, and I think he'd be a great fit right now.
One thing we obviously have to keep our eyes on is similar to Drake. There's a possibility he could be part of the 2025 draft. Coach, quite frankly, I think he would be better to wait another year and get another year of experience under his belt. He turns 19 on June 4th, so has some time. And I think with a year in America, think he could really rise up draft boards and be a first round pick for next season. Also, he's somebody that needs a little meat on his bones. And so, Coach, as you think about that, he's a 6'6" kid. He's 180. Would love to see him get up to around 190, 200. Coach, what do you think about a year of development for him at the collegiate level versus going ahead and going to the draft now, maybe getting picked in the second round or something and just hanging out in the G League for some development?
Yeah, he's played at a high level, but not a high enough level to get him ready for the NBA. And there's a physical maturing, obviously. There's a mental maturing. He's not ready, mentally, I think, to be able to get into the grind. I don't think people realize how 82 games can have a toll on you. Physically, they think about the travel, all this stuff, but mentally, too, you're constantly having to get up for another game. And it's just most guys that age are not ready for that. And every time you go up a level, there's the quickness factor, there's the length, there's all those little things that you're not used to. A year or two at college, I think, will help him prepare much better for the NBA. And to be with somebody like Jonas, who can get him bigger, stronger, faster, more explosive. It's not just putting the weight on, but putting on, the power, the explosiveness that those strength coaches can get you ready for that next level. And then you're finishing at the rim instead of getting knocked off and not being able to finish. Now you're getting and ones. Now you're able to play 30, 35 minutes a night compared to, not being ready for that physical battle on a daily basis.
Yeah. Coach, what really stands out to me when I watch Saar's tape is his athleticism. I mean, this dude is dangerous in transition, and it's very encouraging to watch. Seems like he loves to attack. I think about getting a team in transition defensively and having to recover and do all those things. And the idea of him attacking a closeout and getting to the rim is very tantalizing to me. When you see a wing get out and be able to run the break like this, what does that speak to you?
Well, it's not just with the ball; it's being able to get up and down the floor and be able to get to the corners and be able to set your feet and get ready for that point guard to be able to get to the paint and pitch back out. He's got a little dip in his shot. He's going to have to fix that, get a little quicker with it. I think some of it is he can judge the defense, and he has enough size he can shoot over guys. He makes tough shots too. But I'd like to be able to see him get a little quicker with it. But to have somebody who can get up and down the floor that as a point guard that if you push it, they're going to be down there. It's so frustrating as a point guard to push and not have anybody with you. He's got that mentality. He wants to be able to get up and down with you, and he's got that scorer's mentality, and that's not in everybody.
Coach, I'm glad you pointed out the dip in his shot. Because I think when I watch Dame shoot the ball, I feel like he's got a lot of what I want to see. He's like, once he gets it back up, it's a high release, looks good. But there are a couple hitches in the giddy up there, which I guess we'd usually talk about somebody running, but whatever, you'll allow me that. I've noticed what you have too. He tends to bring the ball down. It seems like there are times when he gets his feet set, but there are other times when, in specifically his right foot, I noticed that he resets a lot on the catch out beyond the arc. And so was just wondering, like, how tough is it to work those things out of your routine? Like, buddy, we need you better foot preparation. Hey, don't bring the ball down. You're a big kid. Keep it up and don't let him get to it. How hard are those things to root out of your shot?
Yeah, at his age, it's still very doable. It's stuff that's fixable. We talk about it at camp. There's one of those long-standing arguments that we have at the lunch table at Carolina camp is, right foot, left foot, pivot foot. Is it always have to be one? Can it be, a little bit of both? You get that one coach who's an old school guy who says, well, right-handers always got to have his left foot be his pivot foot, always, 100% of the time, never change. And I'm one of those guys that, yeah, probably 90% I like that, but there's got to be times when it's right foot, left foot. It can be a mixture. And if you're coming off a screen one way, you can set right, left, and you can have to set left, right, coming off the other way. But the dip is something he's going to have to fix just as the quickness level, as the length of the defenders comes. And those are things you can do every day in practice. That is an easy fix. It's just something you've got to work on daily. And when you have a coach that's willing to do that, we do a lot of 1 foot, 2 foot, jump stop type shooting drills in practice just to be able to get sped up. Drives me insane to see guys going in and shooting on the shooting machine and having the ball come out 4 seconds and then another 4 seconds. I want it 1 second, ball, here, catch, shoot, and get in those type of rhythms where, again, it gets to the point where it's muscle memory's there and you don't even think about it anymore. Yeah. It's just on.
Man, he's long, athletic, a wingspan just shy of 7 foot. Coach, I think there's a lot of defensive possibility for Dame Sarr. I know he's a little bit raw on both ends of the floor. There's obviously, which is part of why I think a year in college would do him some good. But as we think about a team that potentially profiles to be really strong defensively, I'm encouraged by what he could do on that end of the court, Coach, as well.
Yeah, and he can mix up a lot of stuff with him, because of his length. I don't think people realize, when you're a small guard and you all of a sudden have a guy with a 7 foot wingspan guarding you, it's hard to get your shot off. It's hard even just to make typical moves because they can reach, they can poke at the basketball, they can do all those things without ever having to get out of position. That's what the difference with athletes versus non-athletes at the defensive end is. They can make a misstep and still recover, or you can make a misstep and use your length to be able to still contest or get a piece of a pass or a piece of a dribble. So he's got all the tools to be a great defender. It's just a matter of whether he wants to be a great defender.
and put it all together. Well, we've talked about the potential of international recruiting with Jim Tanner. This would be a great moment to show that the Tar Heels are ready for that. And I guess that we should say this is not somebody that we've seen news of Carolina actually connecting with. This is just somebody that we're looking at like, hey, if Drake doesn't come back, a Dame Sarr would be a great player. So just keep that in mind. We're not saying that Carolina has connected with him or anything of that nature. Just always want to point that out before everybody's like, well, I haven't heard anything. Well, it's because it's not happened. So just deal with that. All right. Now, if Dame Sarr comes to Carolina, would he play 20 ACC games or would he play 18 ACC games? That's a great question. And we're going to talk about a recent hope for the ACC conference that they're trying to do to get back to getting more teams in the NCAA tournament. Would it actually help? We'll talk about that in just a second. Right after I tell you about the Amazon Fire TV Stick 4K, which, by the way, did you know that it's also an Xbox? You can turn any TV into your gaming and entertainment hub with Fire TV Stick 4K devices. No console required. Just grab your paired controller, subscribe, or sign into Xbox Game Pass Ultimate with EA Play included, and you're ready to play. You can dive into hundreds of premium titles, things like EA Sports College Football 25, Call of Duty Black Ops 6, or whatever else it is. Do that as easily as you stream your favorite shows. It's gaming made simple, and it's all on your Fire TV. You can play high-quality Xbox games at a fraction of the cost of a console. But maybe you already have a console. No problem. A Fire TV Stick 4K is also so movable. It's so on the go and easier to travel with that you can leave your console at home, bring it on the road, and take your games wherever it is you plug in. But maybe you're a little bit like me and you don't really care about gaming. Well, that's fine because the Amazon Fire TV Stick 4K is the perfect go-to for all your family's entertainment. I have one on literally every TV in my house. It's what we use when we access TV or any of the streaming platforms that we get on, man. I love how customizable their platform is. I'd really encourage you to check it out. To do so, head on over to amazon.com/Fire TV Locked On to get started. Xbox Game Pass Plus Ultimate subscription and compatible controller required. Available on select devices, including Fire TV Stick 4K 2nd Gen, Fire TV Stick 4K Max 1st and 2nd Gen, and Fire TV Cube 3rd Gen. Coach, earlier this week, we had reports coming out that the ACC is looking into the idea of reducing the conference slate in basketball from 20 games down to 18. We've been playing 20-game slates since the 2019-20 season. That coincided with the advent of the ACC network. That was the first time ACC teams started playing a conference game in the non-conference portion of the schedule. In fact, that year, teams started off the season with non-con play. That was the Cole Anthony year. Carolina hosted Notre Dame, if my memory is correct. And the hope, the idea with this, the basic reasoning about it is that the ACC has not been able to get as many teams into the NCAA tournament as they would like lately. And the hope is that by doing this, the ACC might be able to find ways to get more marquee non-con games into the schedule, two, I guess, fine, whatever, by doing this. And the expectation, it happened as soon as this upcoming 2025-26 season. Coach, I guess my question to you is, do you see this as a move that could legitimately help ACC teams have better resumes that could get more teams into the NCAA tournament?
To me, it's an admission that the league's not as good as it used to be. And that's kind of shocking to me. I mean, there's nobody in the SEC talking about that right now because the games are, from top to bottom, everybody's so competitive right now in that league. And that's the way the ACC used to be. So to me, it's a little bit shocking that we're sitting there saying, yeah, we're just not very good. And if I'm a bottom of the league guy right now, I'd be a little bit upset, I think. You're just looking down your nose maybe at us a little bit, thinking we're not very good. And last year they were not very good, let's be honest. I still hate the fact that, and there's no real solution to this one, and we're dealing with this in our league right now. I think everybody should play everybody twice. It should be equal. If you're gonna, and it's different in our league because we only have 2 bids to go to a national tournament. This is the first year, this past year, that we've ever got an at-large bid. So it's been really, really hard. So if you have a 1 or 2 bid league, it's important. There's fairness along the way, but I get it. I get what they're saying, that they want to be able to play more national tournament or national talent to be able to get their rankings up. I still don't like it personally, but I do understand it.
I think that's where I'm at too. To your point about the talent in the ACC, if you want more teams in the NCAA tournament, at some level, let's push the scheduling aside and just say, get better players and get better coaches and play better basketball, win more games. Whether it's in non-con or conference schedule, I don't care, but win more basketball games, coach. Like, I get it. Part of this is the money deficit that the ACC faces compared to the Big Ten and the SEC. But I mean, shouldn't we simply just start there?
Definitely. And I think the SEC embraced the whole NIL stuff quicker. And I think they got out in front of it a little bit better. I think the ACC, I think Carolina specifically thought, hey, we're going to try to stay as old school as possible. We're going to stay with the traditions that we have. We're going to recruit a certain way. We're not going to just, abandon everything we've done for all these years and just try to embrace this new model. And I think they finally, obviously with Jim Tanner being hired and Buzz being involved, there's some kind of embracing of, hey, this is the way the new world is going to be, and we better be part of it or we're going to get left behind. And I think the rest of the league has figured that out too. So I think there's a lot of behind the scenes stuff happening at some of those other schools to be able to try to get caught up to where everybody else is. And I think we'll find that out when we see the talent come out, rolled out here in November and December.
Are teams really going to schedule 2 more good non-con teams? Like, because you as a conference can't really dictate, all right, Virginia Tech, here's who you're going to play in non-con and, whatever. Like, to me, it's just like, okay, some teams will maybe schedule high major opponents. Some teams might get a couple more cupcakes and try to keep working at gaming the net system and just say, we're going to play a team in the 300s and just beat the brakes off of them because that's going to help our net efficiency better. I just don't even see how this specifically would help with non-con scheduling either.
Yeah. Is everybody else out there on the same page? And they're like, oh yeah, we'll come play you guys.
Yeah.
At some point they're going to run out of games and they're going to end up playing, game teams that it's not going to be relevant to what that whole model is going to be. So there's more questions than answers in this whole process. And again, let's worry about ourselves. Let's get better ourselves instead of thinking about how we can rework the power, ranking system.
I also wonder about, I love your point. I miss the true round robin. Big East still has that as the only power conference that does. By the way, speaking of the other Power 5 conferences, the SEC plays an 18-game slate, but this past year, ACC, Big East, Big 12, and Big 10 all had 20-game conference slates. Coach, I wonder about something that seems maybe better to me is finding more high-level games within the conference play for the top teams. So in this 18-game proposal, you would play 16 games or 16 teams one time, and you would play the other team home and home. Obviously for Carolina, that's going to be Duke. Like that, that's how that would be. But that would mean NC State just one time a year, for example. But Coach, I even wonder about, like, can we just think of other conference scheduling models of, like, what if we had some kind of tiered approach where the teams that are rating the best early in the season, you just have blocked out times where the bottom teams in the ACC are going to play the bottom teams in the ACC, and the mid teams play the mid teams, and the top teams play the top teams. So instead of having to worry about all these quad 3 and 4 games in the ACC from the bottom tier, what if, let's say I'll just say Carolina, Duke, NC State, Wake, and Georgia Tech. Just those are the top 5 ACC teams. This is purely hypothetical. And then what you do is say, okay, we don't know, who those teams are going to be, but as the season goes on, we learn that it's those 5. So you're going to play the other top 4 teams home and home so that you can maximize your games against the top teams in the ACC. And Coach, I know everybody's like, oh, scheduling and all this, and we have to get our games figured out now. Well, in COVID, we were scheduling games like a day or 2 out. During the NCAA tournament, the NCAA announces these games on Sunday afternoon, and we're playing them at sites all over the country by Thursday, right? Like, it is doable. So I don't want to hear it about the logistics nightmare of that when you can lay some groundwork of, like, hey, we're going to play some games on this weekend, be ready. And we'll figure, like, Could that be a model coach?
I think it would be a nightmare if you're an assistant coach because you're
Yeah, it
constantly
would.
trying to be able to prepare ahead of time. I think it could be done, and again, it just seems like catering back towards the rich are getting rich and the poor are getting poor. If I'm a bottom guy, I want a chance to play those top teams and be able to make a name for
True.
myself.
That's true.
I, I, I look always constant, and I know life's not fair, but I'm constantly looking for fairness. And I, if I'm going to play the top guys, I want everybody to have to play the top guys, and it's not doable all the time. I do. I think the biggest thing is to be able to make sure that those rivalry games stay true, and the last game is always going to be against Duke. And I hate when you only play NC State once a year. I mean, those are big rivalries, maybe more so internally than it is externally. I mean, I think there's a lot of people. Coach Williams talks about it. I mean, I think they hate NC State more than they hate Duke. But I just don't want to lose those type of games either. So there's a lot to it. I think again, maybe old school thinking would just rather see everybody just let's figure out a way where we can just keep it in house and not have to worry about trying to play all these other schools and get them involved. Let's worry about our own house first.
Yeah, that's a good word. So bottom line, get better in basketball games, more talent, better coaching. I'm with you, coach, and I appreciate the pushback on my scheduling model there. So we'll see what happens. Again, they're meeting in May, and it's sounding like this is going to get pushed through. So we'll see what happens. And if that's the case, because as of right now, we know something about all 11 of Carolina's non-conference games. But if the ACC schedule is reduced to 18, then Carolina would add 2 more and have 13 non-con games. So just keep your eyes out for that. Obviously, we'll update everyone as that comes. Now, I said it earlier, but Milligan and Coach Rob had some connectivity at the D1 level there with Carolina, and also some Rick Pitino action earlier this week. What's going on there? We'll let Coach tell us all about it coming up in just a second. Right after I tell you about Monarch Money, do you ever check your bank account and wonder, hey, where did all my money go between dining out and online shopping and entertainment? It's so easy to lose track. And that's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over all your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, your investments, and your spending in one place. So you stop just managing your money and you can actually start building wealth. I also love that instead of having to juggle a bunch of different apps, like you got a folder with all these different financial apps, it's just one-stop shopping. You can use Monarch to check your finances, to track your spending, and you can even plan long-term goals. Something for me is that my wife and I, we always want to make sure that we're on the same page when it comes to our finances. And thankfully, with Monarch Money, managing that with my wife is smoother than ever before. We can track shared accounts, personal accounts, we can set goals and stay on the same page without the stress. Maybe you want to do that too. And if so, take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. Again, that's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONCollege for half off your first year. Earlier this week, we're in this recruiting time, and Coach Rob had a phenomenal player for him at Milligan this past year named Handji Tamba, Defensive Player of the Year in the conference, and a guy that started off at Tennessee at the D1 level. And interestingly enough, and unfortunately for Milligan, Coach, I still hate this, but is transferring away from Milligan. I know that's a big bummer for you, but Coach, he's going to land back at the D1 level, it sounds like.
Yeah, he sure is. And we're all kind of shocked, to be honest with you. He committed yesterday to St. John's and Rick Pitino. So I don't know how you guys would handle it. You get somebody in your program that wants to transfer. I don't necessarily feel like I'm his agent. I'm not his high school coach. I'm not here to try to find him another place to play. But his situation is a little bit different in that I told him from day one that, during the recruiting process, if you come or you don't come, I'm going to help you regardless. Whatever connections I have, I don't have a ton, but whatever I can do, I'd love to help you. So after about 3 weeks of being pissed off and just not wanting to do anything for him, I basically came and said, hey, is there anything I can do for you? And he said, well, we got some little opportunities here and there. I said, well, let me start contacting some people. So contacted small Division I college coaches that I know that we played and and really only found one or two schools that were even remotely interested. And then Tamba called me and said, "Yeah, Rick Pitino's invited me to come up. I'm leaving tomorrow." Well, my first reaction was, "Wow, that's surprising," because he's a great kid. He's a great defender. I don't believe he's a Power Five player, and I've told him that, and I think he believes that. But at the same time, to get an opportunity like that, and then I went home and started mowing the lawn, and I thought, if I don't tell Brad Frederick about him going to St. John's and he ends up at St. John's, Brad's gonna be mad at me. I'm gonna be mad at me if I don't at least say something. And Brad and I talk, text at least once or twice a week during the season. Maybe not as much during the off season, but we've become good friends. And so I texted him, and he said, "Well, let me talk to HD about it." So all of a sudden, I'm getting a phone call from Buzz Peterson, and Buzz and I coached against Buzz and went to obviously Jackson Simmons is his son-in-law. Went to their wedding, and I was invited through Jackson to their wedding. So I know Buzz a little bit, and wanted to get more information about Tamba, and then got an opportunity to talk to Hubert about him for a little bit yesterday. Here's the ironic thing about the whole thing is Hubert's the one who told me he was going to St. John's, because Tamba had called him and told him right before Hubert called me. So it was just a wild 48 hours, just a crazy time. And Tamba got back off the plane. He stayed in the Ritz-Carlton. He ran into Tobias Harris in an elevator because they're there playing the Knicks. And
Yeah.
Thomas said hello and tried to tell him who he was and told him he was at Tennessee. And Tobias Harris looked at him and said, "I know who you are." And Tom was like, "Do you really? You know who I am?" And he's like, "Yeah, I know who you are." So it's hard to compete, from Milligan to now he's in the Ritz-Carlton going out for, a huge steak dinner and then getting a private tour of Madison Square Garden. A little different playing in MSG than it is playing in Steve Lacy Fieldhouse. But I'm super excited for Tamba. It was good for me. It was good for me to have good conversations with Brad and Buzz and to have Hubert call and just to be able to spend some time with him. It was a good couple days for me personally. But I'm sad that Tamba's going, and at the same time very excited for him.
Yeah, man. Well, hope that is a good landing spot. Whether or not he gets a ton of playing time, just as you said, to be able to get that experience is a neat thing that not many people get to say in this life. That I was doing that. So thoughts for him as he goes out to do that, and coach, obviously for you as you work at replacing a defensive player of the year in your conference. That's never a fun thing. Now I know, it's also, as you said, great opportunities to get to talk to Coach Brad Frederick and Buzz Peterson now and kind of his role alongside Jim Tanner and stuff there. And Coach Davis as well. I know you value those relationships. Please do not betray anything you shouldn't, get outside the trust tree there. But just in your conversations with Coach Davis, any takeaways from that as we think about the big picture scope of Carolina's roster this year?
Yeah, cool thing for me is we got to Hubert and I got to talk about some of the things we talked about when he first got the job, and one of the things we laughed about was he said, "I how do you build a team at Carolina from the transfer portal?" And at that time, it's a little bit different than it is now. And I referred again to that yesterday, and I said, this is exactly what you have to do now. I mean, it's complete rebuild, and the relationship part of it is so huge for Hubert. And he's on the road. He and Leslie are on the road. This week. And I'm like, "Well, what are you doing?" He's like, "Well, I went to Arizona to meet with Henry Saar and his girlfriend, take him out to lunch and just, hang out, get to know him a little bit better." And then he went to LA to go meet with RJ and just kind of, be there and support him. And I'm like, that's who Hubert Davis is. Yeah, he's probably doing some recruiting along the way, but it's about those relationships that's so important. And that's what we both kind of are suffering through right now, because we want to build programs where you get involved with kids' lives for 4 or 5 years. So this Saturday we have graduation. I have a kid graduating. He's been with me for 5 years.
Man.
It's the third kid I've had for 5 years. One of them was my son, Will, who played for me for 5 years. But those days are gone, I think, where you have a kid that stays in your program even at our level. This is the thing Hubert and I we laughed about. Our bowling team at Milligan has guys leaving, and we don't have a portal, but they're all transferring because they think they can play higher or bowl higher, whatever. I don't know how you compete higher, I guess. But and Hubert laughed about it and said, "Well, at least made him feel better that we're all in the same situation. We're all in this in this crazy world now, and we don't like it. That's why you've seen coaches leave and move on, especially the old school coaches. But we do have to embrace it. We do have to figure out a way to be able to whatever this new world is. And we got a commitment this week from a kid who we played against last year in a non-conference game. And now he's coming to play for us. And I've got to look that coach in the eye and say, man, sorry that your kid's coming to me. Oh, by the way, I'll get you into Carolina camp if you want to. And he's like, yeah, absolutely. And his whole staff has been invited to come to Carolina camp. And that's kind of what I do. I connect, guys to get them into camp. And they're young coaches who want to learn and want to be, a situation where they can get better as coaches. And if I can help do that as the old guy, I'm more than willing to do that. But it's a strange world where you sit there and go, yeah, thanks for sending me your guide. You have any of my guys you're interested? We've joked about that NAI level that there's been talks in the NAI level that to make trades at halftime and just switch jerseys. But it hasn't gotten quite to that point, but it feels that way. It feels like we're in the Wild Wild West.
Yeah, it's like a game of Go Fish. Got any threes? It's crazy, Coach. Well, look, thank you for unpacking all that. It's just, it's good to get a little bit of a behind the scenes look at the coaching fraternity and just some of what you guys are all going through. And it is tough, man. I'm sorry for it. I can't imagine other than just the fact that you and I as friends talk about it. And I try to empathize with you in keeping up with it all. So thank you again for unpacking all that. Guys, thanks for joining us on the show today. If you've not subscribed to the Locked On Tar Heels on video and audio, make sure you do that now so you don't miss a second. If you haven't joined the Locked On Tar Heels Discord, that link's in the show. Love to have you there. And if you haven't joined us on the Locked On Tar Heels Insiders, where you can go in depth and next level with the show, we'd love to have you there as well. It's always a great day to be a Tar Heel. We'll talk again tomorrow to send us into the weekend. But until then, peace.